A terrible pit formed in her stomach. 3 members down, 3 of her only family, and now they were trapped like rats. The attack should have already begun. With no diversion, the enemy force could focus all of their attention on Cerberus. Even without effective communication, it was only a matter of time. It was a numbers game, and the math was clear.
Colonel Pines has ordered 2 delays pending your contact. Should I tell him he has the all clear?
All clear.
She was cut off by another voice coming through.
You will not take that tone with me, Lieutenant. I will commence with the attack, but afterward we will be having a discussion.
Are you delusional?
She wanted to scream.
What happened? The plan was...
Plans change. You may not have this responsibility, but I must look at a much larger picture, Lieutenant. I cannot throw my men's lives at such an unknown. Now that the situation is clearer, however, I will start the push. We'll have you out of there in short order.
We've already...
The line was cut suddenly. No one said a word. In fact, the first sound came from the PMC. He laughed. It started as a small chuckle. He couldn't have heard the conversation, but he could piece things together. Shortly, he was almost doubling over with laughter.
You wouldn't consider a career change, would you?
He finally asked.
Shut it.
Alvarez flourished the gun, still trained on him.
I'm serious. Get me out of here, and not only do you live, but Common Group pays extremely handsomely.
I said, shut it.
He turned his comm scrambler back on. The 3 spoke clearly to each other, but the PMC heard nothing but garbled, glitching noises.
What's the plan?
We have this one. They might hesitate to push in here if we leverage him. Just to buy time. We just need time. Ammunition check?
Less than half.
Getting low, and my shotgun is...
I'm running on fumes here too. Shit. Awali, share out what you have. Conserve ammunition if you can. And yes, we have one last sentinel to watch out for. You put damage on it, though?
He asked as Nurse handed a full magazine to each of them.
Yeah, I think I wrecked its cannon.
That's good, but the main threat right now is...
He stopped. They all took notice. There was the sound of shuffling around 2 of the 3 doors into the room. Immediately, they readied their weapons and took up advantageous positions. Alvarez dragged the PMC into a corner with him. Suddenly, the 2 doors slid open, and a group tried to push in. 3 made it inside but fell immediately. Another 2 fell just outside the doorways. Apparently, this was enough to stifle their courage for a moment as the doors slid back closed. Alvarez took a moment to bind the man's hands before speaking.
Tell them to pull back or it's your life.
Ha! Counteroffer. You surrender or it's your lives. Let's be honest, you can't really hold my life as leverage because it's your only leverage. You kill me, and you die. Better yet, though, that first offer is still on the table. I mean it, they deserted you first, so it's only
A gauntleted fist silenced him quickly.
You might want to think that through a little. If you're not useful, then I have no need to keep you alive.
I am unarmed and bound.
And? You really think anyone is going to look that hard after what you people pulled here? Sentinels is the only thing making it around the news nets.
As if to highlight his point, a door opened, and a rifle blind fired around the corner. Pen put a single round into a poorly placed ankle she could see from her angle, dropping them out into view. Alvarez finished the job with 2 rounds into the person's chest as they fell. The door slid back closed. The man's cool facade was slipping. Sweat dripped down his face and his eyes began to dart around.
I really mean it. Mountains of cash. Enough to set all of you up for life and, of course, safe passage for your families wherever you want. I promise.
Not a single one of us would take that deal. We'd rather eat a bullet than become a fucking shill like you. Just tell them to stand down.
I can't. The
man began to fidget nervously. If he'd rather die, then fine. The man's eyes fell on a 9mm dropped by one of his slain men. This captain had kicked it away, but maybe. Shit. He was starting to shake.
Don't.
If he couldn't, he wouldn't let... Fuck it. He dove for the pistol. He might get a shot off at least. As he raised the gun, he found himself staring down a barrel. Pop. Alvarez wasted no time. A single shot dropped the PMC, and that was the end of it. The pistol fell back to the ground almost exactly where he'd grabbed it from, and the man fell just next to it. What a pathetic showing.
Well, there goes that plan.
They each knew that it wasn't holding water anyway. That plan was dead as soon as he'd started to panic.
We can still hold out, just until the army makes it to us.
Penn said. Even as she said it, though, she knew the odds. All their enemy had to do was push through those doors with enough bodies to overwhelm them. An even easier job with how low on ammunition the three were. Not that these mercs knew that. The only thing keeping that from happening was hesitation. They'd made a showing getting here, and Cerberus's reputation was known and known well. As time crawled by, their enemy's courage grew steadily. Their attempts became more and more confident. The first two pushes were answered viciously by the trio, but the third, less so. With that third push, their enemy realized. A few minutes had passed of exchanges, but now a spell of calm was prelude to a proper attack. 3 doors, 3 entry points. Each one of them covered 1 door. Alvarez had already thrown down his submachine gun, cleaned out of ammunition, and scavenged a rifle from the corpses around them. It was a less than ideal piece, scuffed and poorly maintained, but it was better than nothing. The silence lasted only a few more moments. Each of them had taken up angles on their doors. Penn sat close to hers. When she ran empty, and she was going to with only half a magazine left, she would have to be close enough already to engage in hand-to-hand. The door closest to Nurse blew open with him, only a few feet clear of the blast. Fire came pouring through blindly. Soon after, figures came carefully into the doorway. Nurse dropped 2, then another. Alvarez's door slid open. He dropped 2. The same happened to the third and final door. Penn responded like her allies, dropping 1 body, then a second, but a third made it in. They took aim at the first figure they could see, Alvarez, but a knife came down, forcing the barrel of their rifle towards the floor. The next second, a hatchet found its home in their neck. Awali carefully swung his doorway, taking another combatant by surprise. Alvarez took aim as well. Click, click, snap. The gun jammed. Instantly, and on instinct, the rifle fell from his grip, and his hands went for his sidearm. The woman standing only feet from him wore body armor. He could see it clearly, but Cerberus was not equipped with standard-issue sidearms. What he slid from the holster on his waist would punch through a plate, rated even for rifle rounds, as that is what his FN fired. He was going to take hits. This was a fact, and he knew it. He was already preparing for the impacts. Every single member of their fire team had gone through the most grueling training for this very reason. Every useless or less than useless instinctual reaction to danger and pain had been carefully trained out of them. Where others flinched, they did not. Alvarez, even as heavy impacts and biting pain ripped into him, followed through. The impacts pushed him, and instead of fighting it, he allowed himself to fall backwards out of the line of fire. As he did so, he steadied his aim and placed 3 rounds through the attacker's chest. Her body armor indeed failed her, and she slumped to the ground. Alvarez found himself on his ass as well, in pain, and distinctly aware of a spreading warmth in his shoulder and gut. Still, he kept his aim on the doorway. Penn dispatched a final attacker of her own, while Nurse rushed to their captain's side.
Penn!
He yelled. She was already on it. She returned the hatchet to her waist and pulled her own sidearm from its holster on her chest. With a knife in her left hand and her FN in her right, she positioned herself close to the door that was blown open with a view on the other 2. As Nurse went to work on the captain, Penn covered them. She'd dropped a brazen one in the far door when the other slid open. She was ready to drop this one too, but halted at the last moment. They were already falling, a corpse. As the corpse hit the floor, she realized its purpose was only to keep the door open long enough for whoever was behind the corner. their hand hooked around the doorframe, releasing a familiar, small, spherical metallic object. It bounced with a hefty clang twice before rolling to a stop between the three of them. Time seemed to stop. Nurse looked from the grenade to her. She did the same with him. They both burst into motion, but he got to it first, curling his body over certain death. She could only watch.
So what about Nurse, or did Alvarez have a special moniker?
Nope, he didn't like them. Dunno why, but he always said if we didn't want to call him by his real name, we could call him Captain or Sir, but he wouldn't accept anything else. Not that he didn't earn the right.
Samir began nodding.
As far as I heard, he filled some big shoes and did so exceptionally.
No doubt, he and Awali both were unmatched. No better man to follow than Alvarez, and no other I'd want in a bad situation than Nurse.
She chuckled slightly.
Even if his bedside manner left much to be desired.
Deeg puzzled for a moment before speaking up.
Big shoes, like a hard act to follow, as in the previous captain was very good and it would be difficult to match him?
Precisely.
Penn confirmed. Connolly was laughing.
I see human phrases have been treating you well. We don't make it easy.
I've been getting better, but they can be quite vague. Lots of cultural layering that one must be privy to understand, and the translator isn't always helpful. That said, what? Shoes. Whose shoes was he filling?
The demeanor of every human in the room changed. Deeg quickly got the sense he'd asked one of those questions anyone could answer. Samir spoke first.
Penn? I feel like you should be the one to answer, considering...
You knew them?
Tonnet asked.
No, actually, but I suppose we share some connection tangentially. I got my moniker from him.
I thought it was a reference to an old Earth myth.
It is. Scylla was a sea monster, but it's also a reference to him. Scylla was one of a duo. Charybdis was the other half of that duo, and also the moniker he took during his time. Apparently, our feats were similar. We were both close combat specialists, and
you're both the only two motherfuckers who've taken a sentinel down in hand-to-hand. Not to mention the wake of bodies. Kinda underselling it here.
O'Brien, I told you to behave yourself if you wanted to come.
Sorry, sir, but I mean, come on.
A sentinel?
Deeg asked.
a combat frame, more or less. Or, well, more, I suppose, a lot more.
Penn answered.
Ah.
I'm sure you can imagine. They're outlawed now. War crime of the highest order.
Deeg did his best not to imagine.
Only recently, though.
Well, they were by the time I had to, but Charybdis was captain of Cerberus during the Steel Wars. That's when they were developed and put into use. Massive casualties had them outlawed after that.
And you've fought one of these hand-to-hand?
Penn rolled her eyes.
I mean, only technically. I didn't punch the thing out, if that's what you're thinking, and I doubt Charybdis did either. You just can't. Might as well punch a steel wall. But they have weaknesses, and I got lucky.
Please. Got lucky? She challenges something.
O'Brien stood and loomed over their guests for emphasis.
A full head, taller than any human. 3 times as strong, thinking as fast as a computer, and decked head to toe in plates of heavy armor.
He held his hands up as if he were telling a horror story.
Any details I'm missing?
He asked.
I don't think I could fill in any if I wanted to. I barely remember it in all honesty. I was half conscious, hyped up on adrenaline, and running on sheer desperation. I was lucky. It wasn't.
You suck at storytelling.
She shrugged. O'Brien sat down.
Fine. Well, any advice for me?
Advice?
If I come across one?
Don't.
Thanks.
You use a shotgun?
Yes.
Single slug rounds and don't loose the fucking thing.
In hand-to-hand?
Look, kid, I don't know. Make a mistake and you're definitely dead. Don't make any, and you're probably still dead. So don't make mistakes and go for the neck, I guess.
Jesus.
All right. O'Brien, sit down. I think maybe we change the subject.
Connolly cut in. It was just her. Alvarez sat up against a console. His dark visor allowed for an illusion of sorts. She had no way to know, but it seemed as if he was watching her. He didn't move. His chest did not rise or fall. Blankly he stared. Nurse was... She had to move. A brave soul pushed through a door with a shotgun. Penn traded him for the shotgun with a knife through his neck. 2 at the other door. The first was stepping into the room. 3 steps, 1 shot, red missed. He fell against a console and slid down to the ground. The second hesitated, but still tried to challenge a shotgun with a rifle at less than few meters. Her shoulder was deposited on the hallway wall behind her. 3 shots left. There were shells on the corpse she'd taken the shotgun from, so she took a second to drop and grab the shell carrier as she burst through the door he'd been closest to. She saw 3 figures coming down the hallway straight ahead of her. Heading right would only lead around to the door that led back into the command post, so she cut left, leaving Alvarez and Nurse behind. She could hear the enemy chasing after. Her legs carried her down one hallway after another. The place really was a maze, but perhaps that was to her advantage. An idea started to form in her racing mind as she outpaced her pursuers, and as soon as she was certain they'd lost direct sight of her, she dove into an abandoned room. It had 4 exits total. Another door down the same wall as the door she'd came through led back into the same hall. 2 more doors mirrored those on the far side of the room. The only difference was elevation. The room seemed to be a presentation theater of some kind, as the floor was more akin to steps, the lowest part being the front of the room where Penn stood, and the highest at the back. Each step was lined with a row of chairs sporting collapsible desk arms. The footsteps were becoming louder, accompanied by shouts. Penn got to work. She shifted a number of the chairs, just messing with them in such a way that made it clear someone had come through. Next, she holed up in the corner of the room just left of the door she'd come through, quickly loaded the shotgun, and became utterly silent. More than likely, the first person to come through the door would be unfortunately perceptive. As unfortunate for Penn as for them. However, with some luck and some trigger discipline, they'd all move into the open room and make themselves easy targets. A moment passed silently. Penn held as still as anything else in the room. Finally, the door slid open, and the barrel of a rifle poked through the threshold. She could swing around and take them easily, but she held, not moving a micrometer.
Through here,
a gruff voice yelled. 3 sets of footsteps responded, stomping down the hallway. One figure made his way in. His head turned her way, but the room was dark. He made no move to indicate he'd seen the ambusher. His rifle trained up towards a far door, and he moved past. Penn held. A second figure moved past, then a third and a fourth.
None of the other doors are open.
4 sets of footsteps. She'd heard 3 join the first, but still she held. Something told her to wait. Like an ambush predator, she was primed to strike, but she held. A 5th figure moved into the room.
Anything?
Yay, they...
Crack! She opened up, from closest to furthest. She tore open 3 before they couldn't begin to react. The 4th almost readied her gun, and the last, the first one to move into the room, readied but never fired. The closest to her certainly got the worst of it, but even at 15 meters from her, this last enemy was shredded. She was already moving. Distant footfalls were closing, accompanied by a very distinct set, heavy and metallic. 25 minutes. Penelope ran, stopped, ambushed, and ran again. Pursued but never caught by that final sentinel. Wherever its thudding gait found itself, Penelope had already fled. Again and again for approximately 25 minutes she did this. Dark room after blind corner. When the shotgun ran dry, she shed it and switched to her pistol. When it ran low, she stowed its last few rounds and became a nightmare of blade and fist. Her throat was hoarse from shotgunning air, her head buzzed. The mercs had slowly pushed her down to one of the basement levels. She stalked down a long, wide hallway into a large, warehouse-like storage room. Scaffolded shelving accompanied tall stacks of heavy metal crates. There was no other exit. Terrible place. She'd be cornered. She turned to leave but twitched still as her ears strained. It was soft and distant, but footsteps plodded down the hallway after her. There was no mistaking it. They belonged to that wretched sentinel. If she turned around now, she'd be caught in an open hallway. She moved into the room and hid behind a stack of crates piled up before the start of a line of shelving. Her mind raced. 3 shots in her sidearm. Even armor-piercing rounds that they were punching through the sentinel's armor wasn't a sure thing. She should lure it to the other side of the room and slip out the way they'd come. The heavy double doors slid open audibly. Its metallic feet clanked against the concrete floor as it slowly moved inside. If she could evade its notice and make it to the door, the thought died as it shot through her mind. Other voices came from the doorway.
No, let the machine do its job. We stay here.
Shit. 2 at the door. The sentinel pushed closer to her. It stopped.
Oh!
That deep buzzing sounded out, followed by quick footfalls closing on her quickly. She pulled out her pistol and pushed out from cover. It was already within a few meters of her and closing with speed. Time seemed to slow as her thoughts raced. So few choices. She took aim, but stopped at the last moment. It closed on her. She was aware of things more on instinct than any conscious level. There was the sentinel closing on her. There were 2 mercs at the door, already taking aim with rifles. The sentinel's weapon was still mangled beyond repair. She saw herself shoot the sentinel, fail to damage it, and die by its hand. Another step. She saw herself shoot the sentinel, damage but not kill it, and die by its hand. Closer still. She saw herself scrap the machine by sheer luck, but couldn't get back into cover before the rifles took her. It was on top of her. Its mangled right arm swung like a club for her head as its left reached out to grapple her. Alvarez's words shot through her mind as she moved. She pulled the pistol back, ducked, and spun underneath its arms, and down to a knee. Every move they make is the best possible choice in their current situation. She was on a knee directly to its right, but it was not her priority. Her pistol came forward, past the sentinel, and she took aim at the 2 men at the door. Pop, pop, pop.
Hey everyone, hope you loved the video. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe for more awesome sci-fi content. You can also support us by hitting the thanks button or becoming a channel member. Your generosity helps us bring you more stellar stories. Every bit counts. Thanks a bunch.